Okay, Baruch Hashem, good morning. Happy Thanksgiving. The year is 2024. Anyway, and happy my birthday. So I bless all of you. It's my Hebrew birthday, Chav Zayin Cheshvan. I bless all of you with good health and good wealth and Shalom Bayis, nachas from your children, and you should be zeichet to see the Great Tzedek Meher B'Yameinu end this war in Gaza, and Bez Hashem, we should be next year in Yerushalayim learning together. Anyway, so we've been just exactly finding out what exactly is a cotton. So we all, without thinking about it, we say, well, today I am a man, right? And as we saw yesterday, it's not true. That this 13, you're a man when you see shtei sarais. A girl's a girl, a woman, when she sees shtei sarais. The cheskas, the Rava, Masech the Nida, is that at that age, we assume that they saw it. But not everyone did. And as we all know, you see some children, you can see the disparity in eighth graders. You can have an eighth grader who's close to, like 5'8", 5'9". You have one who's 4'8", 4'9". The disparity is great. When it comes to, if you would bring shtei sarais, and at 13, you're mechuyev b'einshin. That's at 13, you're mechuyev b'einshin. We saw yesterday a machlokes between Rava and Rav Huna Bar Chinina in the name of Nachman regarding what's the age for a person to be able, their sale should be a sale when it comes to karka. We said metaltalin, the Rabbanu metakin meiputais, even 6 or 7 years old, they should be able to go ahead and do some sort of commerce in order to eat something. But that's metaltalin. With karka, we said if a person is 18, according to Rava, and according to Rav Rachina was 20. Pirish, if they didn't bring shtei sarais yet, and they do not know what about betiv, they don't understand business commerce, then up until then, that's it. After 18, not after 20, not. Conversely, we saw if a girl is 14 years old and there was a maisa and she understood very, very well, then of course her sale is a good sale. But who adin a boy? It just happened the maisa was with a girl was 14, who adin a girl 12, who adin a boy. So if a person in fact knows and understands business, even once he brings shtei sarais, your sale will be a good sale, even if you're 13 years old. That's what we saw yesterday. Okay, so we're up to, regarding this din of cotton, we're up to Kufna Nun Vav Amid Aleph. We saw regarding matana, that a matana is a matana, and we're up to Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel, about 9 lines down. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Boitgin, we would check for Sa'aros, the Kedushin, for Kedushin. We'll see Rashbam in a second. L'Gerishin, it's shver. If you do for Kedushin, of course Gerishin. In other words, you're at first base already. Gerishin is second. Welcome, Rabbi. And your Gerishin, of course. In other words, if you checked already for Kedushin, fellas, obviously what? You don't have to check for Gerishin. Ula Chalitza, and for the woman to check to see if she do Chalitza or not. Ula Miyunun, and to check whether she's still of age to perform Miyun, Kedushin de Rabbanan, by when her father died and her brother or mother was Makadishar, she does not need a get before she reaches the Nairis. It'll be enough to go ahead and refuse the get. Okay, so now says, let's see Rashi. What Rashbam? Boitkin lekedushin. Afa pishu ben yud gimel shanim b'yom echad. V'isha bas yud beis shanim b'yom echad. So we have the chazak of Rava that at this point in time they're what? They're adults. Lo yisamchinu nashanim. We won't be samich on their years. La'achzakinu kigedolim u'bnei seir. To go ahead and say that the gedolim and they've reached puberty. Leichashiv kedushin vaday. To say that the kedushin was kedushin vaday. Af lahakal, even to be makel kigoin. Levatal kedushin sheni shekiddush achrav. She accepted kedushin from another person below get. Now that's if the first person's kedushin wasn't a kedushin, then the second one is a kedushin. When we need to get from the first one. Elaboitkin achrav in hevi sa'arais. We go ahead and check. So in other words, says the Rashbam, we do not go after years. Again, I can't say this enough because we're so used to it. But again, no person would allow a 13-year-old to lane Parshas Zachar, right? Because again, that's a din deraisa. This whole din about chazaka the Rava is le'inyan dinei derabbanan. We saw the stipler yesterday. That the stipler said even le'inyan zimun, the stipler would be makbid since benching is deraisa. The chaltlas about the berachta. He would not allow a kid of 13 to bench. Okay, legerishin, lekamei mefarish, lechayra guys. It's shver. If you check for kedushin already and they got married, obviously then why do you have to check for gerushin? It makes no sense, correct? Ula chalitza kinefarish lekamei yimshim isha nakadla. This is not for the male; it's for the female. Shlei tachleitz at tagdil. She can't do chalitza until she comes of age, and tavi simani seir and brings simanim of hair. That you won't be able to do it. If she bought saris, she can't do miyan. She need a get, right? She won't be able to refuse the marriage and annul it. You would need a get. Says the Gemara, back in the Gemara, the kivin debat kanan lekedushin. Since we already checked for kedushin, legerishin lamali. What do you mean? Why are you checking for gerushin? In other words, obviously, if you allowed them to get married, they must have been that the child bought shtei sarais. So how could you go ahead? If you couldn't get to first base, you're not getting to second base. So why do you have to check for gerushin? It doesn't make any sense. It says the following case, el yibum. So in other words, I can go ahead and show you a case where they were married, but as of yet he was not what? He was not a gadol. What is that case, guys? A bia is from 9 in a day. A child, a male that's 9 in a day. His action would be a bia. It would go ahead and be considered. So now, let's say you have a man who dies, leaves a wife, and his younger brother, who's 9 in a day, would go ahead and be miyabim her. So we know that yibum already there's the zika, and it's like you're halfway there already. So that bia, that would remove her from being yivam l'shuk. She now is married to this boy. However, you can't go ahead and get divorced until what? Until you bring shtei sarai. So here's the possible case of where you wouldn't have checked for kedushin, because again, there was a zika between the dead brother and this brother. There's a zika between this woman, his almana, and this brother. He goes ahead, the bia is a good bia, so he's mekayim the mitzvah of yibum. But in order to get divorced, since they're married, you'd have to check and see if he's old enough to get divorced. That's the case of gerushin. That's the case of gerushin. Let's see it in the Gemara. El yibum. You only needed the case of checking for gerushin in yibum. Did nan ben teisha shana v'yamecha 9 in a day. Shabal yevimtai, who is mekayim the mitzvah of yibum. Kana, he acquires her. So she's married to him. However, nice and get she gadol. He wants to divorce her. He has to wait till what? He gets old. So therefore, we'd have to check, right? We have to check to make sure that he's of age in order to go ahead and divorce her. That he bought shtei saris. So that's the case of so kedushin is obviously the main is kedushin vadai. Gerushin in the case of yibum where he was a cotton at the time of the yibum, but his bia was a bia, and then we check for gerushin at the time of the if he wants to divorce her. L'chalitza meaning that we'd have to check to see if she is an isha, to see that if she's an isha. In other words, you can't do chalitza to a katana. So you're checking now to see if she's royal chalitza. La'fuki mid Rabbi Yosi. This excludes the opinion of Rabbi Yosi. The Amar ish kasav b'parsha, aval isha ben gedoyle ben katana. But isha, you could be a katana also. In other words, for yibum you have to be an ish, but for chalitza you could even be a katana. Kamash malon, not like Rabbi Yosi, we would check for shtei sarais in order to perform chalitza. Because Rabbi Yosi is of the opinion you could even be a katana and have chalitza performed to you. She can perform chalitza. So therefore, what are we saying? We're saying that no, in chalitza, you would have to make sure that she is a gedola in order for her to perform chalitza. Kamash malon de makshin and isha leish. Like Rabbi Yosi, not like Rabbi Yosi. When makash ish leish, just like the ish has to be a gadol to do yibum, so too the woman has to be a gedola in order to have chalitza performed to her. Ulami unan, we check for mion. We check for mion that, in other words, if the girl brings shtei sarais, she no longer can do mion. She can't refuse the marriage and annul it. She need a get. Now, why are we checking for shtei sarais? Lafukim mit Rabbi Yehuda. This excludes the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. The Amus of the opinion at sheyar b'shachar, that the area of the Oisei Makim has to be not. It's not enough 2 hairs. It has to be more that darkened area, right? So this Kamash Malon, the like Rabbi Yehuda, that's enough shtei saris to stop you from doing mian, as opposed to Rabbi Yehuda, who's a mekel, who said you could do mian up until a point where it's the Oisei Makim is full of hair. And finally, V'limcha b'nichsei aviv ad ben esrim, and 20 until what? And ben esrim lafuke miman. The Amma ben Shmainasa, the fuke shita of Rava. Rava said 18, and Rabbi Afuna Bar Chinana said what? Said 20. So therefore, lafuke that shita. That even we don't say at 18 he's considered a gadol in the sale being a sale, but it would have to be 20. Okay. And the Gemara now goes and says the following. This is kind of a summary of the last 2 days. The Hilchasad Halacha is Toich Zmanoi Kilifnei Azman. We weren't Poisha the Shaila, guys. We weren't Poisha. Why do we ask? Is it 18 in a day or the year 17? Is it 20 in a day or the year 19? We wanted to bring a raya, and we said it's Nishkan Raya. So now the Gemara is pasking, no. The Hilchasa, the Halacha is Toich Zman Kilifnei Azman. So if it's 17 and 6 months, if the sale is not a good sale. At 19, the sale is not a good sale. And that's a halacha like one way. The hilchasa ke gidul bar minasha. The halacha is like gidul ma minasha. That we said that when do we say 18 and 9 and 20? That's only if he doesn't understand business. But if he understands business, then even from 13 and a day, his sale will be a good sale, right? If he understands business, then 13 and a day. The hilchas of Kamar Zutra, and the halacha is what is like Mazutra, that I think that Le'inyan Edus by Metaltalin, right? If you look at Rashbam 2 lines down where it gets wide, the Le'edus Metaltalin Meyed Ben Yud Gimel Sheni Yadei B'Tiv Masamata. If he doesn't understand business, he still can testify on Metaltalin. Aval Be'edus Karka. He wouldn't be acceptable for Karka unless he understood business. The hilchasa ka meimar. The halacha is like a meimar, that a matana of a child who doesn't understand business would be a good matana. We saw the shitas of the chachamim. We want to go ahead and be a good matana, so therefore people will be inclined to do well for him. The hilchasa ka Rav Nachman Shmuel kula, and the halacha is like Rav Nachman Shmuel linyan kedushin, linyan gerushin, linyan chalitza, and linyan miyun. Right? That he said those last 3 things. Today's daf, the halacha would be like him in all those scenarios. Okay. Okay, now we have taken for granted that it's, I guess the word would be dogma, that the divrei shchiv meirah is kiksuv and muchsur medami, right? That the words of a shchiv meirah, you do not need a kinyan, because again, he's worried that his kids may not go ahead and keep his desires. So we say that it's a done deal, and you don't need a kinyan. And until now, there has not been anyone who argues on that. Until now, there hasn't been anyone who argues on that. However, now we will see there is someone who does argue. A person is going ahead and he's giving out his property. He's giving away his nechasim. Rabbi Lazar says, Echad bari, whether he's healthy, ve'echad mesukin, or whether he's a shchiv meirah, he's in danger. Nechasim sheyesh lamachrayis karka nikna bekesev shtar chazaka. Don't turn the page yet. And the Shein Machrayas Metaltalin is a nikna b'Mashicha. That's so obviously he's saying, even though he's Mesukin, you still need a kinyan. Again, the kinyanim by Karka Keseshar Chazaka, the kinyanim by Metaltalin Lav Dafka Mashicha. It could be Hagbah, the Kamakam, it could be Mesira, depending on the animal. You'd use the right way. Right, let's see Rashbam here. Rabbi Lazar Aimer Echad Bari Ve'echad Mesukin. Rabbi Lazar Sfir Lei Le'inyan Shchiv Meirah. We don't view a shchimera as that his words are considered like it's done. El kibari ba'alma, we view him as a healthy person. But tzarich kinyan kisharman is bari, and therefore what he needs a kinyan like any gift that one would give away. V'afagav demes, even though he dies, like kona makabel matana b'lei kinyan. The makabel matana will not consider as if it's his without a kinyan. Even we saw, guys, remember one of the halachas we saw, that the halacha that we had the umdina, the mukach, that the Shchiv Meirah, if he does not leave over anything, then we say what? It's done. But and then if he gets better, he gets it back. But if he leaves over something, we say that no, he left over something because why? Because he feels he's going to get better. So therefore, the gift is a good gift. That's dafka if he didn't verbalize and say, I'm being mitzvah machmas misa. Remember that little knech, guys. If he's mitzvah machmas misa, even if he's leaving over property, he would get it back. Rabbi Lazar argues on that too. Rabbi Lazar nami b'kinyan shay misa shel iman shel b'nei reichel. We're going to have a misa in the Mishnah. Or kimna le'el b'mitzvah machmas misa. We already established right before where it's speaking where you mitzvah machmas misa. V'afilu hachi palag Rabbi Lazar. Even though that case is speaking where he's mitzvah machmas misa, even there Rabbi Lazar argued. We'll see they should bury their mother. Okay, so the Rashbam is machadish that not only is he did not disagree about the Shchiv Meirah, but even mitzvah machmas misa he disagrees. Even though what he did not leave over anything, and we had a mafurish Mishnah before that said if a Shchiv Meirah does not leave over anything, it's mamish, it's the other guys, and if he gets better, he gets back. Like mikni ba'amira klal, he's not kind of an amir at all. V'nira bein, I listen to this chiddush. The kivin like maflig Rebbe Loza ben Shchiv Meirah lebari linyan heched demais who would then heched the amad ein chayzer in kanu miyadei Rebbe Loza, right? Like Rebbe Loza, guys. Not only does he argue about kiksum and chasum dummy, and you need a kinyan. What happens if he gives away all his property? He makes a kinyan and then gets better. Again, he gave away all his property. So we have a umdin of the mukach davat. He's thinking he's dying. Says Rebbe Lazar, you need a kinyan. He does the kinyan, and now he gets better. Mechadesh the Rashbam, that just like he argues linyan kinyan, he would argue if he gets better, he would not get it back. That's the V'nira be'enai. It's chiddush to the Ram. Okay, so not only is he arguing kinyan, in other words, he considers a matnas Shchiv Meirah totally like a matnas bari, totally like a healthy person. Healthy person gives it away, he never gets it back. You make a kinyan, that's it, it's gone, goodbye. That's it. So hu adin is mechadish Rashbam, loit Rebbe Elazar. You need a kinyan, and once you do the kinyan, even if you get better when you were misukin, you don't get it back. That's the chiddush.
So according to Rabbi Lezer, if he doesn't say anything, or if he says that, it doesn't make a difference. If he's quiet, it doesn't make a difference. According to Rabbi Lezer,
doesn't make a difference. Say bari, say mesukin, it doesn't make a difference. You need a kinyan. Doesn't make a difference.
No. But if he doesn't say I'm doing it because I'm mesukin, it wouldn't make a difference.
You don't say anything. It doesn't make a difference.
Right. According to Rabbi Lezer, okay, yeah.
You need a kinyan. Doesn't make a difference.
Right.
Even if you write in the star, I was in bed, sick, right? And I was sick in bed. It doesn't make a difference. You need a kinyan. Amrulai Maisa Amrulai, the Chachamim said to Rebbe Lazar. Now, the Chachamim are going to prove that l'chayra you do need a kinyan. The Chachamim are going to prove that you do need a kinyan. So Amrulai Maisa be'iman shel b'nei Reichel. There was a Maisa with the mother of the sons of Reichel. This name of a person. He was the father. Shahaisa Chayla, that she was sick. Chayla, she was sick. The Amra, and she said, Ki nase kibinsi libiti. In other words, I don't want my jewelry to go to my son's wives, my daughter-in-laws. I want it to go to my daughter. You guys, if you think about it, right? And according to the pecking order of Yerusha, it's the daughter-in-law is going to get before the daughter. As hard as it seems, correct? Who inherits the mother? The sons. So who's going to end up with the wedding rings, the engagement rings? Is the daughter-in-law. So this mother-in-law was taking care of things. She goes, I want my daughter to get it. I don't want them to get it. Now, Bihi b'shnayim asamana, and it was worth quite a bit of money. It was shnayim asamana, umesa, and she died. And there was no kinyan, guys. There was just amira. V'kaimu estevarecha, and they kept what? Her words. Now, according to Rebbe Lazar, it should go to the sons. it shouldn't go to the daughter, because after all, no kinyan was made. But yet you see, it goes to the daughter. Why? Because divrei shchivmera kiksuvim umchusum dami. On that, the Gemara says, Amalehen. So Rabbi Elazar retorted to the Chachamim, Bnei Reichel tikvrei miman. Bnei Reichel, they should bury their mother. Pirish. They were Rishoyim. And that they took it away from them was a kanas. That they were Rishoyim. And that they took it away from them was a kanas. So, Einachinami. Really, you would need a kinyan. Over here, that they didn't acquire it because they were Rishayim. And the Gemara will tell us what exactly they did. So Memela says, Rabbi Laza, don't bring me a raya from them. Really, you do make a kinyan. Over there, the reason why we took it away from them was because they were Rishayim. They were Rishayim. That's it. Okay. Tanya. Amalehem Rabbi Laza. Guys, all the sugya here, it says Eliezer. If you notice, there's always a mark there that's telling you it's Rabbi Laza. Not Rabbi Eliezer, it's Rabbi Laza. Tanya, Amalehem Rebbe Elazar, the Chachamim. Rebbe Elazar says you need a kinyan, to the Chachamim who say you don't need a kinyan. Maisa b'Meroini, there was a Maisa with a person from Meron, so the Gersa Midoini from Madain. Echad, Shahayim Yerushalayim, he was in Yerushalayim. V'hoyulay Metaltalin, Harbe, he had a lot of metaltalin, he had a lot of objects, a lot of loose objects. Ubikesh litna b'matana, he wanted to give it b'matana. Now, Rebbe Elazar thinks that he's a shriv meira. He thinks he's a shriv meira. And now, Amrulai, they told him, oh, you want to give away all your stuff? Now, can you imagine, guys, you have a lot of stuff. If you'd have to make a kinyan meshicha on every piece of object, or mesira or hagbah, it could take you a long time. In other words, think about it. You have so much, just think about you at your house. If you have to go and give piece by piece and make a kinyan, it could take a very long time. So you know what the best way to do this is? Get a little piece of karka, and we know by now it's something called a kinyan agav. All the metaltlin you can acquire agav the karka once you make a kinyan in the karka. Good. So that was the eitzah that was given to this Maruni. Amrulay lahem tikna achiyikana agav karka halach v'lachach beis sela echad. He went in and samach Yerushalayim. He bought a little small piece of land next to Yerushalayim. So you see, beis sela means. They say that it was not agrable. It was a stony place and you can get it cheap. And V'amar, Tzefaini, the north part of this land, Liplaini, V'imoyam, with this north part of land, Meyat sign, 100 sign, Umeya chavias, and 100 chavias. So this seems to be a very practical way of going ahead and being makna, your nechasim, right? You have a little piece of land, and look what you're giving on this little piece of land, 100 flock and 100 barrels of wine. Udroima and the south, Liplaini, should go to so-and-so. The imay meyat soin and meyachavius umeis, and he died. Became a chacham mestavarav. So, according to Rebbe Elazar, the assumption is if he died, he must have been a shchiv meirah. And you see that what? Nonetheless, he required a kinyan. It wasn't enough just to say you had to make a kinyan agav. So, l'chayr Rebbe Elazar is being a raya from Bnei Medoini or Meroini is being a raya that a shchiv meirah requires a kinyan. So, on that. Amrulai, they retorted to Rabbi Elazar, Misham Raya, Meroini Bari Haya. He was a healthy guy. He was fine. In other words, there's no Raya from there. If you're healthy, of course you need a kinyan. The whole shaila of Jirei Shchimira is when he's not healthy. So Amalam Bnei Rachel, Tikrim Iman. So Rabbi Elazar said to them, Bnei Rachel, let them bury their mother. My time of Kolayat Lahu. In other words, says the Torah Chaim, fellas, it would have been enough just to go ahead and say that they're Rishayim. Why do you have to go ahead and curse them? Why? In other words, it's one thing, right? It's one thing to go ahead and say that they're Rishayim, but to curse them, ad kedei kach? Ad kedei kach, you're going ahead and you're cursing them. Says the Gemara, Amrav Yehuda Mishmuel, Mekaime kaitzim b'kerem hayu. Okay, fellas, this is halacha of mat of klei kerem. We know that Kadosh Baruch Hu does not want certain things to be bred together. We find it in food, basa b'chalav. You find it by clothing, shatness. You find it by animals, no crossbreeding, right? Now, by Zrayim, Klei Zrayim could be the Rabbanon, but if you plant Chita Sa'ira, and geffen together, you be mikayim klayim. You go ahead and plant in clay kerem. Clay kerem, it says pentugdash. It becomes kodesh. Literally, it's burnt. It's chassid b'hana. Now, what about if you have a kerem, a vineyard, and something else is, you didn't plant it together, but something else is growing in the vineyard. So you're not allowed to be makayim it in the vineyard. If it grows 1/200 of its growth, it becomes also asa. You can't be makayim it. So it have to be something l'chari that's edible. Now, Michael Behema also would be included in this. So these people, what they were doing, they were makayim koitzim b'kerem. Koitzim is thorny type of grass that is eaten by camels. It's a thorny type of grass that's eaten by camels. So Rabbi Elazar is of the opinion that they're Rishayim, and not only they're Rishayim, but since they kept, it's like here's the Hezbollah. I think this is the Hezbollah. If you're a Russia, you do something, an action, so it's done. Mekayim Klayim means that we warned you to take it out. We warned you to take it out. We warned you to take it out. So why aren't you taking it out? Obviously, because money is very, very dear to you. It's worth something. You're going to get rid of it. It's worth something to you. So Memela, since they were so worried about their money and keeping in the kerem, what do they do? What the Chacham do? They took away his money. They said, guess what? That piece of jewelry is not yours. So it wasn't enough that if it was a Russia, they wouldn't have gone ahead and done this. It's because Gufa, he was more than a Rasha. He was Mekayim Bekerem and keeping it there, therefore they cursed him. Now, what about the Chachamim? The Chacham said, you know what? Most people in the world don't have camels. So therefore they're not Rishayim. Therefore they're not Rishayim at all. Therefore they asked, why, in fact, if you need a kinyan and no kinyan was done, why should the daughter get the jewelry? Your time is the Rishayim, right? And why? Because it's Klei HaKerem. Why is it Klei HaKerem? Is because this koitzim, this grass, is roy for camels. Guess what? Most of the world doesn't have camels. Most of the world don't have camels, right? Doesn't have camels. Just 1 second. Okay, so let's see the dialogue in the Gemara. So my timer kolaya lahu. Why? It's enough to Rishayim. Why'd you curse them? Rabbi Yehuda Mashmuel mekayme koitzim bekerem hayu. They were keeping this koitzim, this grass that you can feed the camels in the kerem. Rabbi Elazar l'tamei. Rabbi Elazar goes according to this reasoning that nan hamakayim koitzim bekerem. Rabbi Elazar oimer kodesh. It's kodesh meaning it's what it's also as klei kerem. Chacham moimim loy kiddush. It's not. Again, the Chacham go after Roiv of the world. Roiv of the world does not have what? Camels. Rabbi Elazar on the other hand says it's not a good roiv, guys. In other words, if you're moida that camels do eat it, so it's pshat is if you don't have in other words, if you would have camels, you would be moida. Roiv means that it doesn't exist by most people. In other words, I can tell you it does exist. It just doesn't have people that don't have camels. You hear the distinction. You just don't have camels. So that's the machlokes. Rabbi Elazar says, you're right. Roiv of the world don't have camels. But if they would feed it. And that's enough. Go ahead and make it also b'klei HaKerem. Ella davik shekamo mekayma. Only what? Something that you would keep. Koitzim l'maychazi. What can you use koitzim for? Take out the words bishlei mekarkim. Amar Rav Chanina, my time of Rabbi Elazar, shekaim ba'ravia mekaymim koitzim b'sadas l'gamleim. They would keep, in Arabia, they would go ahead and they would keep koitzim for camels. Amar Reb Levi, okay, koinin kinyan mishchiv meira afilu b'Shabbos. Now, we hold divrei shchiv meira is kiksuvim chsurim dami, but on Shabbos we'd make a kinyan afilu b'Shabbos. Says Rashbam, guys. Koinin mishchiv meira afilu b'Shabbos. Loishna heicha shetzarich kinyan kigoin shire. No difference where you need a kinyan. For example, he wasn't giving away all of his property. Loishna b'machalik kol nechasav. Even when he gives away all his property, you'd make a kinyan. The kimin the tali time mishum shema titrav love. The reason why you don't need a kinyan is what? Maybe he'll be very, disconcerted at this point in time in his life as he's dying, that maybe you won't carry out his will. Maybe he's worried that what? His sava will not be carried out with amira. Hilkach kedei lahafis daitei, in order to go ahead and to assuage him and make him comfortable, then koinim afilu b'Shabbos b'chol matnosei. Bein sheshayir v'tzarech kinyan Bein Shaloi Shaya Ubamir Sagi. Even though with Shaloi Shaya, when you didn't leave over anything, and therefore Amir should be enough. If the guy wants to make a kinyan, make the kinyan in order to make sure that he feels comfortable that as he leaves this world, his ratzon will be fulfilled. Now, what's the wrong with making a kinyan on Shabbos, guys? What's wrong with making a kinyan on Shabbos? Comes along the Rashbam and tells you. The Afagav the kinyan nami lemecha chumemka shari koinim bekelev shel koina shemaknes sudroi kedei laknes by matana. In other words, the reason why you don't make a kinyan on Shabbos is because it's similar to mecha chumemka, and you're being makna the sudar. So therefore, that's what's wrong with it. So therefore, nonetheless, it's only a din Rabbanan. Nonetheless, the Rabbanan said in this situation, we'll go ahead and do it. So I'm back in the Gemara. I'm Levi koine kin mishivim afilu b'Shabbos v'chosh the divrei Rebbe Loza el shemet titrei daita elav. In other words, the reason you're doing it is not because of Rebbe Loza that you need a kinyan, guys. The reason you're making the kinyan on Shabbos is not because of Rebbe Loza that we don't say divrei shchivim ra kiksum chsum dami. The reason we're doing it is because what shlei titrei daita elav, that the guy should have yishuv das as he leaves this world. But in the chinami, the loch is not like Rebbe Loza.